Hey, Galveston dieters. Well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Mary Claire Haver. I'm a board certified OB-GYN, and I'm the creator and founder of the Galveston Diet. And today I'm coming to talk to you about something that I feel like most of us don't understand. Even as a physician, I had a difficult time understanding it, but it is such a huge part of what is detrimental to our health for those of us at this age, in the midlife age. I'm 51 years old, and it is about chronic inflammation. So when I was in medical school over 20 years ago, we definitely knew that there were two forms of inflammation, acute and chronic, but we didn't really get a lot of information on the chronic forms. And I really think it's been in the last few years that the understanding of the link between chronic inflammation and disease has really been discovered and is now really being exploited. And as of now, 7 out of 10 causes of death, the top 10 causes of death, 7 of them have a direct link to chronic inflammation. So here's what I find is so exciting. So when I was in med school, we got zero education on nutrition. Nothing. There were vague references to lifestyle change or eating healthy, but no one actually defined what that was. In the case of diabetes, yes, there would be some kind of a meal plan that was, low calorie, low carbohydrate, and in heart disease, low fat. But a lot of that has been debunked. Like those diets that were recommended to patients didn't really work. And there was not a clear, other than like eat this because you have this disease, there was not a clear framework on what healthy eating was. It was kind of like, when you see it, like porn. So that's really changing. It's really exciting. I mean, when I got my certification in nutrition, it was through Tulane University, and it's actually, the course was called Culinary Medicine. It was 60 hours, basically equivalent to a master's degree. And I was so excited because in the cooking in the labs that we were working in, which were actual kitchens, there were medical students there who were actually learning real techniques and how to talk to patients about these things. So the tide is definitely shifting and changing. Another thing that I'm going to be presenting today was I was given to this by, we are developing the Galveston Diet in Espanol, La Dieta Galveston. And there is a doctor from Venezuela who is studying to do her residency here that I was connected with, and she is helping me with the translations for the Galveston Diet so that we can offer it in Spanish. So she brought this up to me, this particular, and I posted this a few days ago. So this is from something called Stat Pearls, and Stat Pearls is kind of a website that you can go, and it's vetted medical information that has been, it's really the top of the line of evidence-based medicine, and it is on chronic inflammation. So it's like a quick go-to guide where you would go to find out everything you want to need to know for an exam, or, if you're looking for something for a patient about chronic inflammation. And the treatment is almost all dietary, nutrition. And I get chills, I get shivers. I mean, it just makes me so excited that finally, we are recognizing the effect that chronic inflammation has and the link to the poor diet choices that we've made. So when I created Galveston Diet, I sat there and I thought, oh my God, this is not working. Like caloric restriction is not working for me anymore. And I'm rebounding even worse, meaning, I'll lose some weight, but then I gain it right back, and I'm just not eating the right stuff. And what's happening? And when I started doing all the research, my mind was blown. I really was like, we were in this perfect storm at this age of, the natural aging process is kicking our ass. Plus the hormone changes are like horrific. And everything else we pile on our plates as far as stress-wise, as wives, as mothers, as workers, our aging parents, raising teenagers, all of it, the drama, and it's not sleeping enough, eating crap, it all just comes into this huge bubble. And we have all these women who are unhappy, don't feel good, and overweight. And so when I created Galveston Diet, it was with this in mind. We need to address the inflammation issue, and how do we do that? So I'm going to talk to you guys, acute inflammation is a response to an acute injury. You twist your ankle, you get exposed to a virus, your immune system goes into high gear, isolates, brings blood and immune factors where they need to go, isolates the insult and gets rid of it, okay, so that your body heals. It's a natural process. It's what we all go through when we have a cold, when we twist our ankle, when we get an infection, okay? Chronic inflammation is more of a slow, long-term inflammatory state, okay? And there's 5 main causes of chronic inflammation. So number 1, failure, and I've got my notes here, failure to eliminate an agent causing acute inflammation, such as an infectious organism, including like tuberculosis, protozoa, fungi, and other parasites that can actually resist host defenses and remain in the body or tissues for an extended period of time. Okay, so most bacteria our body can actually fight off and get rid of, and it's really good at it. But there are some, protozoa, bacteria, fungus, or mycoplasma fungi that the body actually isn't real good at fighting off, and so it stays in the tissues for a long time, setting off this chronic inflammation state. Number 2, exposure to a low level of a particular irritant or foreign material. Now, this is like inhalational things like the asbestos people. That's why, people who are exposed to these irritants for long times develop the lung cancer, okay? Silica dust is another big one. A lot of inhalational things, okay? So you're exposed to low levels of things for a really long time. Radiation, okay? And it can lead to chronic inflammation and then disease from that. Number 3, an autoimmune disorder. And so many of us as women suffer from autoimmune diseases. We do it at a much, much higher rate than our male counterparts. The list goes on and on and on, but, thyroid, hypothyroidism, Graves' disease, diabetes, type 1 diabetes, Sjogren's syndrome, lupus, all of it, okay? An autoimmune disorder where the immune system is sensitized to a normal component of the body, so it's attacking healthy tissue, okay? In giving rise to diseases such as lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, but there are so many, and so many of you are suffering from it. Number 4, and what happened to my ankle, recurrent episodes of acute inflammation. In some cases, chronic inflammation is an independent response and not a sequel to acute inflammation. For example, the diseases like TB or rheumatoid arthritis. But like for me, I had an acute ankle injury, and I kept pushing through it for 3 weeks. It hurt, and I kept running and walking, thinking it'd get better. I didn't listen. The doctor and me did not listen to my body, and I kept pushing my ankle to the point where, yes, can you see it? Oops. To the point where this is what my foot looks like now. I'm going to be in this boot for weeks while this thing heals. Completely my fault, okay? And then finally, and this is where I really want to focus on, where we can make the biggest changes with nutrition. We can also help autoimmune disease with nutrition as well. But inflammatory and biochemical inducers, okay? Inducers, meaning something we ingest or put in our body, causing oxidative stress and mitochondrial dysfunction, such as which leads to the increased production of free radical molecules and advanced glycation end products, uric acid crystals, oxidized lipoproteins, homocysteine, and others. Okay, all of those things, those big chemical names that I just said, are byproducts of inflammation. For example, uric acid crystals cause kidney stones. Oxidized lipoproteins cause atherosclerotic plaques in our blood vessels, in our arteries. All of it highly inflammatory from things that we ingest, from things that we eat. Okay. They're finally recognizing chronic inflammatory diseases are the most significant cause of death in the world. Okay? The World Health Organization ranks chronic diseases as the greatest threat to human health. And they're avoidable. They are absolutely avoidable. The prevalence of diseases associated with chronic inflammation anticipated to increase persistently for the next 30 years in the United States. It goes right along with the obesity rates. In 2000, nearly 125 million Americans were living with chronic conditions, and 61 million, 21%, had more than one. And the recent estimates by the RAND Corporation, in 2014, nearly 60% of Americans had at least one chronic condition. 60% of us, okay? 42% had more than one, and 12% of adults, 12%, so 1 in 10, had 5 or more chronic conditions all floating around together. Worldwide, 3 out of 5 people die due to chronic inflammatory diseases. And what diseases am I talking about? Do y'all even know? Stroke, chronic respiratory diseases, heart disease, cancer, obesity, and diabetes. They're all chronic inflammatory conditions, and they all could be preventable, okay? So the article goes into deeper details about diabetes, cardiovascular disease, arthritis, and joint diseases, allergies, and COPD. We know chronic obstructive pulmonary disease is caused from smoking. There's a few familial diseases where you overproduce some enzymes that can hurt the alveoli, the little air sacs in the lungs. That can lead to COPD, but the vast majority of people with COPD, it is from smoking. So under a microscope, what does chronic inflammation look like? Most of the features of acute inflammation continue as the inflammation becomes chronic, including expansion of blood vessels. So the blood vessels dilate, that's trying to get the immune cells to where they need to go, increase in blood flow, increase in the capillary permeability. So the capillaries are the smallest blood vessels, and that's actually get to the tissue. And so when they're more permeable, the walls allow things to transport out. That's, again, trying to get the immune cells where they need to go to fight off the insult. However, the composition of the white blood cells change. Okay, they go from the acute phase, the white cells that fight off acute disease, shift to the white cells that fight chronic disease. So those are lymphocytes and macrophages. So any of you with a medical background will know what I'm talking about. So those cells produce, once they get to where they're going, they produce cytopathic inflammatory cytokines. So they produce like these caustic chemicals that contribute to the progression of tissue damage and secondary repair, including fibrosis and granuloma formation. So you've taken healthy tissue in chronic disease, whatever acute process or whatever led to this, and now you're coming in and you've got these you're pouring acid on it, basically. Think about it that way. And then your body is laying down scar tissue to heal it. So what was once this beautiful, healthy tissue is now this horrible, fibrotic, nasty, gross. It's not diseased anymore, but you've destroyed anything good about it. That is kind of what we're doing to our bodies with this chronic inflammation. So in chronic inflammation, there's 2 types. There's non-specific proliferative. My Invisalign does not let me talk. And then there's granulomatous. So granulomatous is more about mycoplasma and disease and things caused by like tuberculosis and stuff like that. We're not going to talk about that today. We're the ones more in line with things that we're exposing our bodies to through what we're eating is the non-specific proliferative. So it's characterized by the presence of granulation tissue formed by the infiltration of lymphocytes, macrophages, and plasma cells. And then you can have like polyps. So in our stomach, we can get in our nose, we can get polyps. In our stomach, we can get polyps. In our GI tract, we can get polyps, all due to this chronic inflammatory state. So what are the risk factors that promote this low-level inflammatory response? Okay, age, just getting older makes you a little more prone to it, right? Obesity, for sure. Why? Because the fat tissue, once you reach a certain threshold, our fat tissue acts as a whole endocrine organ on its own. Morbidly obese people have an extra organ, and it is the fat in their body that is producing chemicals and hormones that are dramatically disrupting their normal biochemical processes. Okay? The fat itself secretes inflammatory mediators. Some reports show that a body mass index of an individual is proportional to the amount of pro-inflammatory cytokines secreted. So the pro-inflammatory cytokines are these chemicals that are produced during the inflammatory response, and they can be measured. How do they know all this? They do blood tests, and they measure, okay? So diet, definitely a risk factor. Remember that the diets that are high, super high in saturated fats, which is the typical Western diet, trans fats, okay, and a trans fat is a fat that is liquid at room temperature, made solid by a chemical process. They've been banned pretty much in America. They're much harder to find, but they are available throughout the world. You can still get them in the US, okay? So that would be like the old Crisco, okay? Shortening, some of the margarines were trans fats. So smoking, duh. Low sex hormone. We know that when we go through menopause, that one of the changes that we see is that when our estrogen levels drop, it can suppress the production and secretion of some of the inflammatory markers. So that is why we see people who stay on hormone replacement therapy for a long period of time after the recommended 5 years or so have increased risk of disease. And we think that taking exogenous hormones after menopause definitely leads to increased disease states. And then, of course, stress and sleep disorders. Both physical and emotional stress is associated with inflammatory cytokine release. Stress can also cause sleep disorders. Since individuals with irregular sleep schedules are more likely to have chronic inflammation than consistent sleepers, the sleep disorder is also considered as one of the independent risk factors for chronic inflammation. Okay. So symptoms, you guys know what the symptoms are. I don't have to tell you. Body pain, consistent fatigue, insomnia, depression, anxiety, and mood disorders, gastrointestinal complications like constipation, diarrhea, and acid reflux, weight gain, and frequent infections. Okay? So what are the tests? Unfortunately, there's not a really great, highly effective laboratory measure to assess a patient for chronic inflammation, and diagnoses are only undertaken when the inflammation occurs in association with another medical condition. So it's not like you go in for your well woman and they're like, we're going to run an inflammatory pattern on you and see. Only if you're suffering from joint disease, and they're going to test, different inflammatory markers. You have GI issues, they're going to test, there's different, we know that these inflammatory markers go up in this disease or these, so only if you have the disease will they test. It is not a standard test that is yet to come out. That would be a brilliant thing for a lab to do, is an inflammation, lab panel. If I was a brilliant lab person, I would come up with it, but unfortunately I'm not. Okay. Let's see. So many of you have heard of C-reactive protein. I'm just reading through the labs. C-reactive protein goes up in anybody with inflammation. It's just not really specific. And so a high C-reactive protein is like, yep, you're inflamed, but we don't know where it's coming from. Is it coming from your diet? Is it coming from smoking? Is it coming from, some autoimmune disease we didn't know you had? So that's a tough one. We know that, if you have it drawn and it's up, you're inflamed. But again, you have to start addressing where that inflammation is coming from, or is it coming from multiple, insults, because so many of us have. Okay, so this is the most exciting part. Treatment and management of chronic inflammation. Okay, this is right here in the medical data. This is why I'm doing this right here. This is why the Galveston diet. This is what made me pick what I chose for the Galveston diet. Okay, you ready for this? Number 1, low glycemic diet. A diet with a high glycemic index is related to a high risk of stroke, coronary artery disease, and type 2 diabetes mellitus. It is beneficial to limit consumption of inflammatory promoting foods like sodas, refined carbohydrates, fructose corn syrup, and fructose corn syrup. So, okay, you should never ever drink sugar-laden soda. You should never drink soda. No, ever. Other than like club soda, okay? Because someone asked me to get them a Coke Zero. I get I can get a few things in the doctor's lounge. And so a friend of mine who couldn't get away for lunch because we were so slammed was like, would you grab me a Coke Zero? And I said, can I get you a bottle of water? And she said, what's wrong with Coke Zero? And I said, it's just a bottle full of chemicals. Your body's not supposed to have those things. I mean, I'm not knocking Coke, okay? But anything that's bottled and colored, you're just asking for trouble. I mean, they know how to market. They know how to get you addicted to it. You cannot drink those. You cannot drink fountain sodas. It is not, you are absolutely, not only if it's sugar laden, not only are you getting the sugar, you're getting inflammatory chemicals. When those chemicals reach your gut and start becoming absorbed, your gut and your body freak out and say, what the hell is this? Why is this person? And so you activate the inflammatory pathway because it is recognizing these chemicals as foreign, and you should not be drinking that. High fructose corn syrup is just another form of sugar, but it's in so many products, and it causes a spike in your blood sugar much higher than like a spoon of table sugar would, and much faster. And so, not higher, faster. And so, you guys, it is in all of the baked goods. It is in all of those sodas. It is what makes them so addictive and taste so good. It's like, okay, cocaine or methamphetamines. You know, you have the pill, you have, I don't even know all the drugs. This is sad. But when you're given an IV form of something, you get addicted faster. Why? Because you get a rush much higher, okay? And your body starts craving it right away. When you're getting high fructose corn syrup, it is like getting the crack version of cocaine. It is like getting the crystal meth version of methamphetamines, okay? Your body is getting a hit really fast and really hard, and then immediately starts craving it again. Okay, now that's just your brain saying, give me more, give me more. That's not even including what it's doing to your body, which is horrible, horrible things in the inflammatory pathway. Okay, that's number one, low glycemic diet. Number two, reduce intake of total saturated fats and trans fats. Okay, so in the Galveston diet, we talk about your fat ratios and what they need to be. For optimal health, and I got this from my nutrition course, the ratio, all fats are not bad, fat is good, okay? The ratio of unsaturated to saturated fat, okay? So you can have butter, you can have bacon, but when you're looking at your fats, you should be eating 1.5 times the amount of unsaturated fat to saturated. Okay, just remember, you need to be eating a lot more unsaturated fat to saturated fat. What is unsaturated fat? Avocado, olive oil, most of the plant-based fats. One exception is coconut oil is saturated. So you have to read the labels, you have to learn these things, because too much saturated fat, you're losing the benefits of that protein and having that fatty balance. And that's what worries me about traditional keto, is people don't look at the ratios. They're just eating fat. And you're losing weight. Yeah, you will lose weight on keto, I promise, temporarily. But what you're doing to your body inflammatory-wise in the long run is so bad for you. When people, I get, oh my God, people are like, they go check out the program. They're like, this is just a keto diet. I don't want to do this because we have a money-back guarantee. And I'm like, I'll refund your money, no problem. But this is not a traditional keto diet. This is teaching your body to get away, to be less reliant on these simple carbohydrates, to add more healthy fats back into your diet, and to learn to balance your fats so that your inflammatory levels go down, okay? Traditional keto, now there is like a clean keto movement, which is more unsaturated, whatever. But most people, when I look at the literature, when I look at the fads, when I'm on Instagram looking at all this stuff, they are fat at any cost. They are weight loss at any cost. No one's paying attention to inflammatory levels. They're just looking at the scale. And let me tell you, you will lose weight, but what you're doing to your body long-term will kill you. So there's an awesome paper that came out in the New England Journal, and somebody might correct me on this, but it basically was looking at all cause mortality. All cause mortality. So this is all causes of death. Okay, and they just looked at people's percentage of carbohydrate in their diet. So we know that people who eat high carbohydrate diets have a high death rate, okay, much higher. So you had this U shape. I'm trying to stay on camera. So over here were the people who were eating high carbs, okay, high percentage of carbohydrate in their diet, like 60, 70%. They die much faster. Then the levels dropped off to people not dying a lot, and somewhere in the 40, 30, 50, 60% range, okay? Then when you got to people who were doing long-term, consistent, high-fat diets, they had a super high all-cause mortality too. So I have a big problem with people doing keto for long-term without paying attention to where they're getting their fats. What they didn't look at in that study were the people who were eating the higher fats, what kind of fats were they eating? So we know that saturated fats are highly inflammatory. We know that trans fats are highly inflammatory. They didn't look at that. They just looked at percentage carbohydrates, okay? So people who were doing high carb and ultra low carb didn't do well long term. But I'm wondering if those ultra low carb people were doing traditional keto and it was fat at any cost, weight loss at any cost, okay? Dr. Haver is going off on her tangent. So sorry, and 55 of you are still listening. Yay. Oh, share this, please. Please share. Share the health. Make sure people know about this. If they join Galveston Diet, awesome. If not, I don't care. But I just want people to know to make better choices as they age. Okay. So, processed and packaged food containing trans fats, such as processed seed and vegetable oils, baked goods, containing soybean and corn oil, as I talked about earlier, should be reduced or eliminated from the diet. Okay? Easy. Next, if we're still in treatment and management, have you heard one drug yet take this medication? No? Okay? It's all diet. This is so awesome. Sorry. I get so excited. Number 3, fruits and vegetables. It says it right here. Fruits and vegetables. Blueberries, apples, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower that are high in natural antioxidants and polyphenols and other anti-inflammatory compounds protect against inflammation. Oh, Deborah, hey, honey. Okay? All of it. There's almost no fruit or vegetable that you can find that isn't going to be helpful to your body in some way. And in my nutrition courses, the head guy used to always say, ain't nobody got fat from eating fruit and vegetables. And when my kids come to me and start bitching about, complaining about, my daughter had an outbreak of acne. And, I tell them what to eat. I put healthy food in the fridge, but they're making choices outside of this house. And she was breaking out. And she said, no, I'm washing my head and doing all the things. And I go, are you eating 50% fresh fruits and vegetables in your diet? And she was like, what? And I was like, Matt, until you are eating 50% fresh fruits and vegetables, your skin is not going to clear up. And let me tell you, that girl reached in the fridge and got an apple. You have to learn how to motivate your kids. And one of my daughter, I try not to talk about physique or body type or weight in front of my kids. They don't have weight problems, thank God. But, motivating her to make better choices through her vanity of not wanting to have acne seemed to work. So you guys can borrow that as much as you want to. So, okay. Fruits and vegetables. So, fiber. A high intake of dietary, soluble, and insoluble fiber is associated with lowering levels of IL-6 and tumor necrosis factors. So remember I talked about cytokines? Those are 2 of the measurable inflammatory markers that we can find in the bloodstream, okay? So, which is why I am working with a lab right now to come up with a few supplements. As a rule, I don't think supplements are okay for everybody. If you're getting what you need from your diet, you're fine. But if you're not, if you're struggling, if you're making these huge changes and you're not able to meet those goals of getting your omega-3s and getting your fiber in, I'm providing supplements. So they'll be coming out soon. I'm testing these right now. This has soluble and insoluble fiber. I'm so excited about it. And 1 scoop a day has 6.9 grams, so almost 7 grams of fiber. You should be eating 25 grams of fiber a day. And those of you who are using your calculators for macros, it will tell you how many grams of fiber you're getting. And even me, who like stays on top of this, like white on rice. Sorry, I'm getting hot. You need to make sure you're getting enough fiber. I'm super motivated because my uncle died of colon cancer. He was diagnosed at 49 years of age. That is my age. Okay, my cousin lost her dad when we were pregnant. We were both pregnant with our daughters, who are now freshmen in college, and from colon cancer. And so it runs in my family. I've got breast, ovarian, colon, and GI cancers rampant in my aunts and uncles and cousins, and lung, two cousins with lung. And so I can't take this for granted. I am getting my fiber in. I'm doing whatever I can. I'm not saying I'm not going to get cancer, but if I do, I'm not going to be like, oh, I should have had more fiber, because I'm getting my fiber in. Okay, nuts. Nuts, such as almonds, is associated with lowering a risk of cardiovascular disease and diabetes. There's this awesome study that looked at people who just added nuts, like 1 ounce serving or whatever, once or twice a day, and looked at the heart disease rates just from eating nuts. And they did awesome. I mean, there's real medical data around that. So green and black tea polyphenols. Tea polyphenols are associated with the reduction of CRP, which is the C-reactive protein, in human clinical studies. So we know that polyphenols are really high in the green and black teas, in the herbal teas, and in the green and black teas. And, you know, you definitely can overdo it, but enjoy your glass of tea. You know, I enjoy some tea during the day to get those polyphenols in. Curcumin. This is something else I'm looking at as a supplement as well. Not quite there yet. That one's a little tougher because it's hard to for the body to absorb it. A constituent of turmeric called curcumin. So turmeric is a spice that's really big in India that causes significant patient improvements in several inflammatory diseases, especially in animal models. So right now, buying from Lifetime. Rhonda, I think you'll really like this. When's my next shift? I can bring some up to the hospital, I think. I may put you on my guinea pig list. So curcumin. So the active ingredient, one of the ingredients in turmeric, if I'm saying it right. So you're going to see more things about, as these studies are coming out with curcumin, more and more, you know, how to put turmeric in your diet, how to add things to food, add, you know, turmeric teas and all these things. So there's definitely some good data there. Fish oil, the richest source of omega-3 fatty acids. Higher intake of omega-3 fatty acids is associated with lowering levels of tumor necrosis factor alpha, C-reactive protein, and interleukin-6. So again, those cytokines, those inflammatory markers that we can measure in the bloodstream, they go down. Here's my other supplement that we are working on. They go down. Why? Because the byproduct of the breakdown of omega-3 fatty acids is highly anti-inflammatory. Highly. Don't forget that, okay? I'm working on this one that has omega-3 plus vitamin D. Super excited about it. Okay, sorry, I digress. Mung bean. I didn't know this one. This one threw me for a loop. Rich in flavonoids, particularly vitexin and isobictectin. It's a traditional food and herbal medicine known for its anti-inflammatory effects. Anybody out there eat mung bean? I don't know much about it. I think it comes from, you know where I know from mung bean from is the Disney movie set in Asia. What's it called? Didn't they eat mung bean there? Okay, am I crazy? Sorry, I digress. Micronutrients, okay? Micronutrients, so important. Magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin E, zinc, and selenium. Magnesium is listed as one of the most anti-inflammatory dietary factors, and its intake is associated with the lowering of C-reactive protein, IL-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha. Vitamin D, exerts anti-inflammatory activity by suppressing inflammatory mediators such as prostaglandins and nuclear factor kappa light chain enhancer of activated beta cells. I said that real fast. What? Trust me on this one. I could go into the biochemistry and the microbiology of it, but it's good for you. you need vitamin D. Make sure you're getting enough in your diet. And it's one of the things that is getting tested a lot. So when you go in for your well woman, when you go in for your physicals and annuals, have them check your vitamin D levels and you might be shocked. Okay. Hey, Leah, my sister's on. So Leah Boulay is a registered nurse. She is like the smartest person in the world. She has a bachelor's degree, went to a year of law school, has a master's in healthcare administration, and is a nurse. So she is actually starting the Galveston Diet Louisiana group. And she just built the page today. So you will be seeing me talk about that. And we're starting this coaching program, like people who want to be Galveston Diet coaches. And she's my guinea pig. So if you're from Louisiana, shoot me a message. And we're kind of trying to limit it by geographic area. And she's our test person. Anyway, and hey, Leah, you still there, baby? Okay. So I digress. Vitamin D, okay, vitamin E, zinc, and selenium also act as independent antioxidants in the body. Sesame lignans. Sesame oil consumption reduces the synthesis of prostaglandin, leukotrienes, and thromboxans, and is known for its potential hypotensive activity. So sesame oil, used heavily in some Asian foods, really, really good and healthy for you. Okay. All of this is nutrition. This is how you combat chronic inflammation. Stop putting things in your body that cause inflammation, which is the first ones, and add all these things at the bottom. Make sure you're getting enough that are fighting inflammation, you're filling your body with anti-inflammatories and antioxidants. I've gotten to the point in my life after doing this for over 2 years now, where I look at my plate and I'm like, that's an anti-inflammatory, that's an antioxidant. These are also good for me and they're delicious and I'm doing healthy things for my body, okay? One of the complications of chronic inflammation, the problem with chronic inflammation is it's a silent killer. Although it progresses silently, most people with chronic inflammation, it is, unless you've got, like me with the ankle injury, all the ones that are autoimmune or, related to the gut or GI tract kind of live below the pain threshold, but they're just constantly destroying tissue. So it's upside down. What was upside down, Angie? I'm not sure. Did I hold up something that was upside down? Okay. So inflammation, and again in the article, they talk about, inflammation being a major contributor to those diseases we talked about. Samantha, can you come live with me so you learn all this? Just come stay on this page. Just come check in on the page every couple of days. I'm always talking about this stuff. And when I find yes, psoriasis, Carla. When I find an article, a medical journal article that I think is worth bringing to you guys, that I can break it down in layman's terms, and I'll do it. Okay, cardiovascular disease. Let's talk about that. Many clinical studies have shown a strong and consistent relationship between markers of inflammation, so that's the C-reactive protein, the interleukin-6, the leukotrienes, all those things I was talking about, and cardiovascular disease prediction. Furthermore, atherosclerosis, which is getting the atherosclerosis, or the plaques that are formed in the arteries, is a pro-inflammatory state with all the features of chronic low-grade inflammation. You don't feel it when the plaques are forming. Nothing hurts, but it's the oxidized lipoproteins that are doing it. Cancer, chronic low-level inflammation appears to participate in many types of cancer, such as kidney, prostate, ovarian, hepatocellular, pancreatic, colorectal, lung, and mesothelioma. Yeah. Diabetes, immune cells like macrophages, okay, that's macrophages in chronic inflammation, infiltrate pancreatic tissues, releasing pro-inflammatory molecules in diabetic individuals. Both are circulating and cellular biomarkers that underscore diabetes as a chronic inflammatory disease. Chronic complications linked with diabetes include microvascular and macrovascular complications. So they're talking about like people with diabetes long-standing from all of this chronic inflammation and tissue damage end up with microvascular and macrovascular disease. So much higher incidence of heart attacks, much higher incidence of stroke. Also, you get you start losing some of the vasculature in your extremities, especially the legs. So people with diabetes end up having poor circulation and sometimes lose limbs. because of it. Lose feet, lose toes, lose, every ankle down, knee down, because those smaller vessels are being destroyed. When they're destroyed, the tissue can't get the nutrients, the oxygen that it needs, and the tissue dies. Okay? That just scares the hell out of me. So diabetes not only increases the risk of macrovascular complications, like I just said, strokes and heart attacks, but the microvascular complications, and diabetic retinopathy, you go blind, neuropathy and neuropathy. So when you don't feed the nerves, because you've destroyed the blood vessels that feed your nerves, then the nerves start firing weird things. You get pain or numbness, tingling, or chronic pain in those extremities. Hi, Danielle. Started the diet a week ago. Love it. Thank you. You're so welcome. Rheumatoid arthritis. So many people have reached out to me about this. RA, it is thought to be initiated by an infectious agent or an environmental factor like exposure to cigarette smoke, which induces a local inflammatory response in the joints, infiltration of immune cells, and release of cytokines. Allergic asthma, complex chronic inflammatory disorder associated with inappropriate immune responses and inflammation in conducting airwaves, involving a decline in airway functioning and tissue remodeling. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, smoking, we talked about that. Alzheimer's. This is the thing that scared you guys the most, was loss of cognition with age. Alzheimer and dementia. That scares you guys more than cancer when I did the survey. In older adults, chronic low-level inflammation is linked to cognitive decline and dementia. Absolutely, you can do something about that with diet. Chronic kidney disease, and of course inflammatory bowel disease, such as ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, okay? So deterrence and patient education, here we go. Guess what the number one thing is? So this is how you talk to your patient. This is what they're telling me to do when I talk to my patients, okay? Chronic inflammation can have a deleterious effect on the body and is a key factor in causing almost all chronic degenerative diseases. The following are some of the most effective ways to prevent chronic inflammation. Number 1, increase uptake of anti-inflammatory food. They don't talk about medicine. They talk about food. It makes me want to cry. When I trained, the only thing we could offer people with these diseases was a drug, not a lifestyle change, not a nutritional plan, okay? It was medicine. Take this pill. I'm so happy about this. This is what we're teaching medical students now. So increase uptake of anti-inflammatory foods. It is important to avoid eating simple sugars, refined carbohydrates, high glycemic foods, trans fats, and hydrogenated oils. Consuming whole grains, natural foods, plenty of vegetables and fruits such as avocados, cherries, kale, and fatty fish like salmon is helpful in defeating inflammation. Do not take a pill until you change your diet. You may never need a pill if you start changing your diet now, because more than likely you have some kind of chronic inflammation going on. I'm reading this. Oh, Deborah, I love you. The Galveston diet stopped my type 2 diabetes mellitus in its track. After seeing my dad die from Alzheimer's, it shook me to the core. The Galveston diet and healthy lifestyle I have adopted have given me hope I will not face Alzheimer's, dementia myself. Thank you so much, Mary. Well, I'll pray. So here's the other thing. Number 2, minimize the intake of antibiotics and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Okay? Minimize the intake of antibiotics and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. My parents grew up in a generation where when you have a sniffly nose, you go to the doctor and you get your antibiotics. You don't need antibiotics for a cold. You need antibiotics for a severe bacterial infection. We are overusing antibiotics. The use of antibiotics, antacids, and non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, such as, what's in the NSAID if you don't know? Aspirin, ibuprofen, not Tylenol. Aspirin, ibuprofen, Motrin, Vioxx, Celebrex, and Naproxen. I couldn't think of the other one. Naproxen. So, should be avoided as it could harm the microbiome, okay, in the gut, causing inflammation in the intestinal walls, such as leaky gut, which in turn releases toxins and triggers chronic body-wide inflammation. Linda, you're on high-dose anti-inflammatories from several injuries and surgeries. I'm not saying never take them. You're in a chronic, you need these things in acute diseases. I'm talking running and taking it anytime you have a little owie, or anytime you think you have a runny nose, jumping on the antibiotics. I am not talking about medically necessary, surgically indicated use of nonsteroidals. I am talking about these things are available over the counter. Certain antibiotics are now over the counter, antifungals are over the counter, and we're overusing them, okay? And when we take those things, remember there's good and bad to everything. We might be doing some good over here, but we're causing some long-term damage over there. So everything in balance. Exercise regularly to maintain an optimum weight. It is largely known that adipose tissue or fat in the obese or overweight individual induces its own low-grade systemic inflammation. Regular exercise, which is part of the Galveston diet, and if you're in the VIP group, we're killing it even with this damn thing on my foot. I'm actually working out only 3 days a week and only doing upper body while my ankle's healing. So it's killing me not to be in the gym every day, but I'm, again, taking care of my body. Am I getting a little excess adipose tissue on my little skinny frame? Yes, I am. I'll show you my little tummy roll right now, but that's just part of it. Everything's in balance. I'm healing my ankle so that I can go back to my great lifestyle and not do too much Peloton, which is probably what hurt my ankle in the beginning. Clipping in and out of the shoes, out of the pedals, because Dr. Haver didn't know how to clip in right. She just kept wrenching her ankle out of those shoes. So lesson learned. Sleep longer, okay? People are like, well, I don't know. What is all this sleep hygiene? Do not have your phone in the room when you go to bed. Buy an alarm clock, okay? Charge your phone in the kitchen. Go to bed. Go to bed. There's so much data is coming out about what the screens are doing to our pineal glands, to our melatonin level, all of that. So when you go to a sleep medicine specialist, and actually Dr. Matsumura is coming tomorrow to talk to us about sleep and women. I'm so excited. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time and 7 p.m. Central, so 8 on the East Coast and 6 Mountain time. Tomorrow, she's so generously coming to talk to us about sleep hygiene and some basic sleep tips. And then in our VIP group, she's going to be talking about menopause and sleep. But ideally, you should be sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night. Okay? 7 to 8 hours every single night, average of 7 to 8 hours. If you're not doing that, you need some help. It helps stimulate human growth hormones and testosterone in the body to help it rebuild itself. That's when we heal. That's when our kids grow. Okay? That is when we heal, is when we're sleeping. If we're not getting good sleep, if we're getting disrupted sleep, you need to learn about sleep hygiene, make sure you're doing all the things that you could do, and then go see a sleep medicine specialist. So, let's see. That's it. They didn't talk about medications to take for chronic inflammation. They talk about medicines not to take, and they talked about food that you should eat, food that you should not be eating. And when I developed the Galveston diet, it was here with this stuff. So that's it. Let me toggle through some of the questions. You turn your phone off at night. Good. I was getting tinnitus from suspected Advil cramps. It's quite gone. Yay. I was worried about long-term. It's been years. Linda, you need to talk to your practitioner about starting to wean off of those anti-inflammatories maybe and start making some dietary changes and see if, you can start ramping up the nutritional changes and start lowering those anti-inflammatories. I would not go cold turkey. Not quite yet. And let's see. Sue Thomas is watching. A high dose inflammatory. Okay, we talked about that. Join the program. My birthday present to me. I'm ready to do this for me. That's it. You're doing this for you. This is self-care. Learning about your body, learning about proper nutrition, really thinking about fueling your body with good, healthy stuff. And the Galveston diet gives you a framework in how to do that. Finally, okay. Leah, why'd you say kidneys? Okay. Hi, Mimi. Hi, Carla. Oh, psoriasis. Psoriasis, she's had it for years, and now she's learning how to help combat it through diet. How about collagen? If already discussed, my apologies. I saw the Facebook Live and joined. You know, I don't see, it's really hot right now. It's really popular in the fad diets, the collagen. I do have a collagen supplement that I was using before I got the Invisalign. That I would drink some when I broke my fast. I do like having the amino acids, you know, to help for protein building, especially after I work out, you know, when I break my fast. But it's yellow. I love the flavor of it. It's citrus. And so, but it was turning my Invisalign yellow. And so I stopped using it. I've got a few more months of this, and maybe I'll go back to taking it or not, or come out with, find a better one and come out with my own. Looking forward to the fiber supplement. So cool. I'm a great guinea pig. Yay. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I'm working with a laboratory right now called Acili, and they're actually based out of Asia. They have super high quality. I really love the specs of what they do. And they are helping me. This is a sample for me of something we've been working on. It's a fiber supplement, but what makes it different is it has, what I wanted in a fiber supplement was not only to have fiber that was insoluble, but I also wanted soluble fiber. So I wanted to hit both because they have very, very different health benefits. So this is a powder that you mix up in water, and you've got to shoot it, because what fiber does is it's hydrophilic, so it pulls water into it, and it also makes kind of like a gel in the glass if you leave it there for a while. So some people don't like the texture. Often I've taken capsules when I know I can't shoot something real fast or I'm sitting around. You can put this in like if you make a smoothie, like this morning I had my bowl, but I can make that bowl, which is Greek yogurt and fruit and some nuts, into a smoothie and add the fiber to that. And then, of course, the omega-3s. I cannot say enough about this. For those of you who don't like fish or can't get good quality fatty fish, you know, this is a great way to supplement that. You need to be making sure you're getting at least one good fatty acid omega-3 source daily. And this could be a way to do it. And I also like this because it has vitamin D added. And the vitamin D is super anti-inflammatory as well. The other anti-inflammatory micronutrients I talked about, magnesium, selenium, they are fabulous. I think because I eat such a variety of fruits and vegetables that I'm getting enough in my diet. But again, supplementing that is something we can look at in the future. But I don't want people to get too reliant on supplements. You should be getting your nutrition from food. And if you're eating what you're supposed to be eating, you really don't need to supplement a lot of stuff, but we're human. This is life. I understand. So many of us are not getting enough fiber, and it is crucial to our health to get enough fiber to decrease your risk of colon cancer. And this is such an easy thing to supplement. So let's see if there's any other questions. Somebody asked about gluten. Okay. If you have documented celiac disease, meaning you've had the blood test, you've had they do some kind of a test where they test gas coming out of your mouth that people with celiac disease have when they eat gluten. It's horrifically inflammatory to your gut, but very few people actually are gluten sensitive or have celiac disease. They've done multiple studies. It just became kind of a popular fad to say you can't have gluten. You need to be diagnosed by a gastroenterologist to make sure you actually do have it. And but so if you don't, outside of celiac, because it's gluten-free, does not mean it's healthier. does not mean it's healthier. Actually, a lot of the products that people who have celiac disease have to eat can be inflammatory to a normal person. So be very, very careful. It's kind of a pitfall, and people with true celiac disease, finding stuff that they can eat on a regular basis is tough. And it's not something you want to pretend that you have. A lot of people just think that they're gluten insensitive. It makes sense to them, but I would be very hesitant to start eating things that are gluten-free without reading the label and knowing exactly what you're putting in your body. Do not assume it's healthy because it says gluten-free. Okay. The other thing I'm looking at, experimenting with, not sure, we're not going to come out with this first, are probiotics. So these are little shooters. So it's like, I don't know, 1 billion spores or something. Each sachet contains 15 billion cells from 16 different scientifically studied human resident strains. It's dairy-free, soy-free, whatever, fine. But you just take it open and you you just pour the powder in your mouth and you drink the water. It's got xylitol. It's got a little bit of sweetener in it, which is a sugar alcohol, to make it a little bit more palatable. But again, sugar alcohols in small amounts have not been found to be inflammatory. In large amounts, yes, and they cause gas. Those of you who've eaten those sugar-free candies in large amounts probably know. Gas and some gastrointestinal distress. So let's see. We go down to the bottom. What yogurt do I recommend? I buy plain yogurt. I buy usually the Fage brand, FAGE, 5% full fat. You're right. Just because it says yogurt does not mean it's healthy. Almost anything that has a color on the label or is fruit has so much sugar in it. It's ridiculous how much added sugar they have to it. So be very, very careful when you're choosing your yogurt. If you want to put fruit in your yogurt, put fruit in your yogurt when you get home. Don't get the fruit added, because usually it's like jelly, just like a preserved jelly that they put in there that's just sugar packed. So I would be very, 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 very wary about that. What about thyroid and gluten? I have no idea, Kim. I have not heard of any association with that. Does your diet have recommendations for gluten-free diets? Look, if you have celiac disease, you have lived a lifelong struggle about finding things that are right for you to eat. I mean, when I went to my nutrition class, I was, did my master's, I was blown away by the celiac people and what they go through. It is unbelievable. So yes, there's lots of parts of the Galveston diet that are okay for people with celiac disease. But when you start choosing which of the grains that you can and can't eat, it's tough, because they can't eat, people with celiac disease can tolerate some grains, but they're hard to find. And it's not like, it's like amaranth and things that, that are not readily available. You have to go to a special bakery, and most people are just bag it, I'm not going to have that. So guys, if you think you have gluten disease, if you think you have celiac disease, you need to go to a gastroenterologist and get diagnosed to make sure you actually have this, because you might be doing your body more harm than good. Leah, additional samples. I'll call you about that later, honey. How do you find a lab? Carla, that was hard. So my journey to find, when I thought about, how can I give the world, I bought everything online. I went to the health food store. I went to GNC. I went to like the local health food store, and I bought all these different things, and started reading labels and researching where they were packaged. And it turns out a lot of these places all come from the same like big giant manufacturing company, and they just slap labels on it and call it good. And so, they're just trying to, I hate to say they're just trying to make money, but they are. And so I started doing a lot of research into how these things are processed and where they get their, supply from, and what steps do they do to extract the nutrient that we're looking for. And I was very, very fortunate. A lot of things in life are luck that, I do Ever Skincare. And one of the gentlemen that was on our sales team, he actually just left. His name's Buck McMurray, awesome guy, actually has a background in supplements. He worked with a supplement company for a long time. So he was a wealth of information for me and gave me, and then Julie Shaun, who's our vice president of product development forever. Actually, she had some names for me as well. So that kind of, and they were able to kind of vouch for these companies and give me, personal recommendations. So I kind of started with that, and then started interviewing the companies and talking to them. And then kind of looked into some of the background and got really excited about it once I decided which route I wanted to go. So look for that coming hopefully soon as we make sure everything is exactly the way I want it. Let's see. Currently taking hydrocodone, tramadol, X-Release, Soma, and all tests are pointing to connective tissue disease. Considering the Galveston diet. Melissa, you have nothing to lose. So if you're having to take that much medication to feel normal and not have pain, if you haven't started looking at diet and using an anti-inflammatory approach, you've got to. You absolutely have to. I understand what it's like to be in pain and to need to take pain medicine. I mean, we do. But if you've got a chronic pain condition and you haven't addressed diet first, you're probably shooting yourself in the foot. So I would absolutely consider Galveston diet. Again, you guys, we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't feel like it's working for you, no. And, people reach out all the time. Can I have this? Can I have that? Da, da, da. You are in charge of your diet, not me. You pick what you put in your body. I am simply giving you education and a framework to, and I'm trying to give you the science so that you make an informed decision and you know what you're putting in your body and why the things you've tried for so many years are not working anymore. Like why caloric restriction worked when we were 25 and didn't work when we were 35, or worked for a short time, why things are so much harder. So had hypothyroidism since I was 15. My dose went up after kids. Stacy, again, we have many students. We have 18,000 students enrolled in the Galveston diet now, and I just get anecdotal evidence, people emailing me, sending me letters, texts, messages, and telling me like, I went to the doctor and I have to decrease my, no one's done a study on this yet, but the Galveston diet seems to be really helping people with autoimmune conditions and inflammatory linked conditions. And we think it's that they're lowering their natural inflammatory rates, and so they're not attacking the tissue as much, for example, your thyroids, which is allowing it to function a little bit better. Now, if you don't have a thyroid, you have to take thyroid replacement. Can't get around that. So, but we definitely are seeing a trend, and it would be worth doing a study. Unfortunately, I'm not linked to an academic institution where doing a study would be easy anymore. I'm spending all my day here on Facebook talking to you guys, trying to teach you because I feel like I'm helping more people this way. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. Let's see. Wait, Leslie. Oh my God. Okay, Leslie Hollier Oye we would have said Oye. I'm from Louisiana, and we have a lot of French names. So Leslie Oye de Plou. So I bet you're from South Africa, maybe. We have people from all over the world, guys, tuning in and doing Galveston diet. It's pretty cool. Australia and Canada and South Africa, I guess because they're English speaking, are our biggest participants. It's so exciting when I see someone from another country. I'm like, oh my God, this is so awesome. So she's been on Galveston diet for 2 weeks. She's doing right now. Now, when you do Galveston diet, there's 3. Oh, you're listening. Your husband is South African. I nailed it. Okay. That said, but de Plou sounded Dutch. So, Angela, you're in New Zealand. Okay. I lived there for a few months. I lived in Christchurch, and I went to University of Canterbury. And I loved Akaroa. It was amazing. So, okay, well, let me read this to you. Sorry, squirrel. Been on Galveston diet for 2 weeks. So there's 3 components to Galveston diet: intermittent fasting, the nutritional component for anti-inflammation, so cutting out the crap that causes inflammation, adding in lots more things that fight inflammation, and then fuel refocusing is the third. I have you phase into each plan. Some people go balls out cold turkey and just do it all at once. I don't recommend that. I want you guys to ease into this. So the first thing is you got to master intermittent fasting, because that's the easiest thing to do. Literally, it's the scariest, but then you're like, oh my God, this is so easy. So, So she's doing intermittent fasting. She's had horrible, horrific back pain in her lower lumbar region for years. Guess what? The pain is now down to almost a zero. The food that I was eating in the past causes so much inflammation in my back. Arthritis is triggered by foods we eat, no doubt. You just made my day. Thank you so much for writing that. Oh my God. New Zealand. I love Louisiana. Oh, you live in Louisiana now. Oh, I'm from there. I'm from Lafayette. My sister's still there. Cindy Vandenberg Jordan in Canada. I'm blown away by the change in her back. I do not eat past 3:30, sticking to fish, veggie salads, no sugar or bread. Hey man, it works. I'm telling you. All right, guys, I've been talking for like ever. I'm going to jump off here. Please feel free to share this with whoever, whenever, wherever, and make good choices, guys. Take care.